Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our webcast this evening. My name is Brian Murray, the Director of Travel here at AAA, and I know it's such a beautiful evening out, but we appreciate you spending some time with us as we talk about one of our wonderful travel partners, Alexander+Roberts, and the wonderful destinations they go to. I do want to mention you're all in listen-only mode. However, if you do have questions during the program, please feel free to type them in the question panel and we'll entertain questions at the end of the program. In addition, as a thank you for joining us this evening, we are offering from AAA a $100 savings on any new Alexander+Roberts journey for travel now through 2023. That's on new bookings made between June 18th and July 2nd. So that is combinable with any of the promotions that are going on right now with all the member benefits and amenities that go along with Alexander+Roberts. So we have a great program plan. I would like to introduce Marilyn Ward, Regional Director with Alexander+Roberts, who is going to take us on a wonderful journey this evening. Marilyn, thank you so much for doing this.
I am pleased. It's my pleasure to be a part of your program, and I love talking about destinations. It's something that I've always enjoyed. It helped me to learn all about travel around the world, because when I first came to Alexander+Roberts, the only place I ever sold was Las Vegas. So imagine that, coming into an international tour operator and starting from scratch. So it's been a wonderful journey, and now I'm going to take you on a couple of them this evening. So buckle those seatbelts and let's get ready to travel. So I want to tell you a little tiny bit about our history, which began with this gentleman, Alexander Harris. He was from Poland, lived in Poland his whole life, and unfortunately lost his family in the Holocaust. And he was a survivor of the Red Army Regiment in World War II. So after the war was over, he was able to come here to a displaced persons camp just outside of Dresden, which was run by the Americans. Alex was a 22-year-old, little wanting to know everything guy. And so he was really anxious to learn English. So he started practicing it there with some of the, officers and other gentlemen from the Army Corps. So finally, it was about time to dismantle the camp and start getting people placed in real places so that they could begin life again. So with that in mind, he had a conversation with one of the officers there who said, Alex, you have a choice. You'll probably end up in Palestine, but I think that it might be possible for you to have the opportunity to come to the United States of America and begin anew. Well, oh my golly, that is all he had to hear, and he was practically packed. And sure enough, November 1945, on a blustery day, he chugged into New York Harbor with many other people from his homeland and various regions to wonder and stare and think about, what is it going to be like now? Life is going to be so different, and it has to be better, because it certainly couldn't have got worse. Well, Alex learned to speak English fluently within a year and began working with a couple who incorporated a tour company with the expressed idea of taking people back to their homeland for visits and so forth. So they did that. It was successful. That continued on a couple years. And then in the early 50s, Alex put together a proposal for the Eisenhower administration to put forth his idea about building bridges of understanding through travel. And so he got that passed, and we really did start taking people to the then Soviet Union in the mid-50s or so. Boy, what a difference. But you know what's never different is we've never lost that DNA in our profile at Alexander+Roberts. So that's where we kind of come from. We consider ourselves to be a company of travelers with a pretty nice historic background, and we're 74 years old now and American owned and operated. So with ideas about becoming a real tour company. Alex was friends with the gentleman from Tauk and somebody from American Express and, all kinds of different companies. So it became apparent after a bit that we needed to differentiate ourselves in the market. So the first idea was small group travel, small groups of 16 or less. This gives you an idea looking at these folks here getting ready for their wonderful stay at the Patagonia camp in Chile. And it is a spectacular way to go. If you've never heard of it, you have now. And you know what? You're going to hear a lot about small group travel in the coming, couple of years for certain. But it's a wonderful way to go. Now, second idea about flexibility in travel is our privately guided experiences. So imagine us curating a tour just for you through AAA for just your party of whoever that is. 2 of you, your little family of 5 or 6, your couple of couples that you love to travel with. You can travel on your own dates. You can travel to your own destination of choice, and we can devise it to be exactly what you're looking for. We have tours that are designed to be private, and you can also take our small group and make them private. But you know what else has been very popular lately is our custom travel arrangements. People are looking at that more and more, I think, and kind of renewing family ties and things after we've been through this long couple of years that, people are saying, let's do something together as a family. We've talked about reunions. What if we go somewhere out of the country together? Or maybe they're going to go to Alaska together, whatever it is. Custom travel arrangements right now are very popular. Just check with your AAA counselor. So here we go, folks. Our first destination tonight, Journeys Without a Crowd, and we're heading for Egypt. So here's an outline of the map here, if you can see it. That is our focus here is we're coming in and out of Cairo, of course. We arrive into Cairo, we stay there 3 nights, yes, 3. Then we'll fly down to Luxor, where you will get on the beautiful luxury ship for the next 4 nights and end in Aswan, fly to Abu Simbel, and then fly back to Cairo for your final night. The AAA Vacations special benefits for this are the free day and night at Cairo's luxury Kempinski Nile Hotel with chauffeured transfers and breakfast, and $115 per person savings, which is your member benefit through AAA only with Alexander+Roberts. Seasonality is kind of important to talk about, and usually that's reflected on a hot and a cool season. Hot season here lasts from April to October. Egyptian summers mean devastating heat, quite frankly. Baking sun, usual air temperatures at that time about 104 degrees. On a windless day, it could be up to 122. The cool season, and the best time to go really, is between November and March. In October and November, the overall comfort of the weather is increasing, and these days there's not so much heat, and the temperature of the air is about 86 degrees, and remember, it's quite dry. Egyptian winter is a windy season. The first 2 weeks of December are off-season, prices are low, seas are warm as well as the air, so it's a good time to visit the country in that time frame also. So there's some ideas for you, and isn't that a beautiful view of the city of Cairo, and right with the Nile flying right down the center. You'll be happy to know that we meet our guests before any of the formalities and assist you with getting acclimated for your arrival and taking care of the formalities. And it bears repeating that you're going to be met by these wonderful people here, our Cairo-based staff, who will assist you with immigration formalities from obtaining your visa through the baggage claim and the customs. From the airport, the drive into the city takes about 45 minutes and brings you right here to the banks of the Nile River. We choose to stay here at the Kempinski. It's located in an affluent and prestigious city center neighborhood very near the Egyptian Museum. It is also perfectly situated with the British and the American embassies are within walking distance. It's a very stylish and intimate boutique property. It's perfect for our small groups. You'll settle into your Nile View guest room and enjoy the rest of the day at leisure. All Alexander+Roberts guests receive Nile-facing rooms, and as you can see, they're quite lovely. The hotel has everything we need. First of all, it has a lounge, rooftop. There are 9 restaurants, And there's also a rooftop pool, which has a restaurant. Check this out. I am just a complete sucker for these. I could spend a whole week somewhere and just stay at night anyway, up here on one of those pool top decks. It just looks so inviting. So let's talk a tiny bit about cuisine. Egyptian cuisine makes very heavy use of legumes and vegetables and fruit from Egypt's rich Nile Valley and the Delta. It shares similarities with the food of the Eastern Mediterranean region, such as rice-stuffed vegetables, grape leaves, hummus, falafel, shawarma, kebab, and kofta. And of course, being an international destination, there are all kinds of international cuisines available. Don't ever worry that that's the only thing that would be available, but a lot of people like to check it out. So next morning, the ancient world comes to life as you will explore with our expert Egyptologist, setting out from the Kempinski about 8 in the morning. You know, the physicist of the University of Amsterdam recently put forth a theory on how the Great Pyramids were built. Well, why don't you behold these amazing structures for yourself and evaluate the ideas and see what you think about it? Of course, we'll learn all about it from the guides. And here's something you might want to know about. A lot of times people say, oh, golly, I'm going to the pyramids. Gee, I wonder if we can go inside. Well, here's what it looks like, just to give you an idea. We really don't recommend it as it's pretty claustrophobic. And the sad part is clients will have so many incredible tombs to see down the road that this would honestly be almost a waste of your time. But nonetheless, we don't automatically include it, but it's easy to do right on the spot. We've done it many times for people who just really want to have that experience. So no worries, it can be done. Just thought it'd be a good idea for you to see exactly what it would look like. And of course, the camels are out there. People do enjoy it. And the nice thing is it's been arranged, so there's no haggling with the attendants. And honestly, wouldn't this be a picture you would show off forever? Maybe one year it's even going to be in your Christmas card. And then right after that, we'll behold the watchful gaze of the Sphinx, a mythical character, faces west to east, and it represents the pharaoh Khafre. Then we're going to see the solar boat, which is about 5,000 years old and was discovered in the 1950s. In the ancient times, the Nile lapped up against the base of the pyramids, so it's not surprising that the boat was buried in the sand, laying up against one of them. They think that this is how nobility went from one side of the Nile to the other. But soon, this museum may be empty and moving something else in, because the solar boat will be relocated to a place I'll tell you about in just a couple slides. And around midday, we're going to take you to the landmark Mena House for lunch. Beautiful setting, as you can see. Then we're going to continue on to Memphis, the site of Egypt's ancient capital, where we will marvel at the formidable colossus of Ramses II on display in a small museum dedicated to this ancient wonder. Ramses was the premier pharaoh of the Second Dynasty. Nearby in Saqqara, you'll see the country's oldest standing stone structure, the impressive step pyramid of King Zoser. You know, it's said that only a third of Egypt's antiquities have actually been discovered. Excavations are really very, very active all the time. And speaking of which, there has been a group of archaeologists has found the largest ancient city ever discovered in Egypt, dating back 3,000 years. The city, named the Rise of Aten, was discovered under the sand on the western bank of Luxor, according to lead archaeologist Zahi Hawass, which I'm sure you've seen on TV. We'll get back to the hotel around 5, giving you time to refresh and make whatever plans you want for dinner. Personally, I would be making a reservation for rooftop dining and admiring the views of the city and the Nile and just marveling at what we saw that day. Then the next morning finds you inside the highly regarded Egyptian Museum of Antiquities. With our expert Egyptologist, your 2.5-hour guided visit reveals the ancient artifacts that will deepen your appreciation of the sites you will be exploring when you travel down the Nile. As you can see from this photo, it's a pretty crowded situation. And as you can see in the enclosed areas where some of the mummies are interred, you really have an incredible viewpoint. But you'll notice in the back of that picture, you can see two people kind of up against the glass. And that brings me to something I want to tell you about, which is no flash photography is allowed. They have no problems with anybody taking their cell phone photographs anywhere along this journey. But if you whip out your big, I don't know, Nikon thing with a huge telescopic lens and things like that, that they may actually charge you a fee, which would be negotiated with the guide. No worries there or anything. So if you know you're going to do that, just make sure to check, and so you're prepared for it and do whatever it needs to happen. So that way you won't get caught short. But there was no more room, nowhere to add on, nowhere to build up. So here we go. This is going to be the brand new gem museum, Grand Egyptian Museum. Hopefully going to open this year. It's been, delayed like many things. So the area for the land for the museum is elevated. And when the project is completed, it will become a national park with walkways connecting the museum and the park to the pyramids. They have already moved the 3,200-year-old massive statue of Ramses II to the new museum. This kind of gives us a little sense of how huge this interior will be. And it'll be the first time, once they, complete the moving, that everything that they have uncovered so far will actually be on display. So this will give us an idea of the immense size of it. This is the entrance area, and there you see the workers going in. So all we got to do is hope that this opens very soon. So whoever decides to go in 2021 will have the opportunity. Definitely it will be open in 2022. So when we're back done with this area of town, then we'll have a lunch somewhere in the old part of Cairo. Really wonderful restaurants. And again, all sorts of different food types available. Never any worries about that. Then during our walking tour, we'll head over here to the Khan El Khalili Bazaar, which is really colorful. And that's where gold and jewelry and spices and rugs and textiles and lanterns have been sold for centuries. And even produce. Here's a lady off of one of our groups that wanted to, grab a little something for the ship or whatever. And you can notice that gentleman right next to her. That would be our plainclothes security that is always with you on your journeys. So next day, we're going to be off for our little quick 1-hour flight down to Luxor on Air Egypt, regular jet service. When we arrive, we'll head over to the ship, which is the Oberoi Philae. And also, welcome to the Nile. The Nile is a major north-flowing river in northeastern Africa and is the longest river in Africa and disputed longest river in the world, as the Brazilian government says that the Amazon is longer than the Nile. Imagine seeing this as soon as you enter, with only 44 guests on board and now operating at 50% capacity for the foreseeable future. The sleek and modern Oberoi Philae enjoys private docking facilities. We'll talk about that down the road. A friend of mine from AAA here in Florida went with a group in April, and every day they were delivered this health kit. So it's waiting for you in your room. You can replenish anything at any time, and they're going to bring you another one the next day. So I would say, as long as it's necessary to have all those items, you don't have to worry about packing a lot of them, because the guides have extras of everything. You're getting extras here on the ship every day. So you shouldn't, feel that you have to bring a whole box of masks and, hand sanitizer and things of that nature. Of course, it's up to you, but at least it's all there and waiting for you and replenished every day. And something else, we make arrangements for all guests on all of our programs, very timely and convenient testing prior to their return flights for the United States, as long as that's going to be required. We continually monitor and adjust for all the governmental requirements for both outbound and return travel. At all the destinations, we have the testing worked out. The guests pay the test facility directly, and usually it's between $50 and $100 per person. And here's people getting tests on the ship in April with that group. So never worry about that. It's all handled. We get so many accolades right now of the people that are actually traveling and say, oh my golly, I didn't have to worry about any of that. My guides knew everything. They knew every last detail. I didn't even have to think about it. I could actually enjoy myself. Here's one of the luxury cabins, a mere 388 square feet. Very generous living and sleeping space, elegant furnishings. Those French doors do open wide, so you can enjoy the cooling breezes and passing Nile scenery right from the privacy of your own stateroom. Full-size baths with those standard accommodations. And guess what? You could actually shower as you're cruising down the Nile. That would be something to remember. Here's a sample of a luxury suite, 592 square feet, also very generous living space, and it includes a furnished bedroom and then a separate living room area with a nice sofa and armchair for post-touring comfort and relaxation. This will be probably quite popular if you're going during the height of the season. It'll be a lovely way to end an afternoon of sightseeing, just to take a nice dip into the pool and still be able to see everything. As I mentioned earlier, the Oberoi has private docking facilities. So with the reduced capacity in place, imagine that just 22 of you would be disembarking together with your Egyptologist. There won't be any other boats there, any other crowds, or any other even Oberoi ships. So in the mid-afternoon, you're going to go ashore and visit two of Egypt's most celebrated sites of antiquity, beginning with the Great Karnak Temple. With our skilled Egyptologists leading the way, you'll stand before its massive pillars and admire the great Hypostyle Hall, encompassing more than 50,000 square feet. This is the largest hall of any temple in the world. Your sightseeing continues at the nearby Luxor Temple, built in the 14th century BC and connected to the Karnak complex by the awe-inspiring, nearly 2-mile-long Avenue of the Sphinxes. The temple walls of Luxor are embellished with skillful carvings of the gods of Karnak, accompanied by a festival procession of priests, musicians, dancers, and sacred cows. With keen insight from our Egyptologists, today's sightseeing offers a fascinating look into the culture and the beliefs of ancient Egypt. We'll return to the ship for tea service in the afternoon with time to refresh and enjoy dinner later on. You can take a snooze or whatever you might want to do. You can dine here, regular dining here in the lounge. That's also where the afternoon teas will take place. Here's the regular dining room. They have very talented chefs on board, preparing all types of fine international cuisine. You can dine here at the restaurant or, as I showed you, at the lounge. And then there's lighter alfresco meals that are available at the poolside cafe. Although dining can be arranged here, sometimes the daytime highs might be too much to enjoy it, but it's just something to think about. So focusing on the amazing sights of the West Bank, you'll begin your exploration early this morning in the fabled Valley of the Kings. Here, the pharaohs of the 18th dynasty abandoned the pyramid tradition in favor of tombs built deep inside the mountains. 64 ancient rulers are buried here. Here is the fabled final resting place of King Tutankhamun, and the fabulously decorated tomb of Ramses VI are among the highlights awaiting our exploration here in the valley. This is what you want to see when you get to the inside. Your eyes can hardly take all of it in. And remember back to when we were looking in Luxor that these are stories and processions and symbolic events and all sorts of things that we have no idea, but we'll be learning about that. And it's just so magnificent to be able to see it in this good of shape. And maybe that's what they thought about too back in those days, that things would be so much better preserved if they were underground rather than in a pyramid, which maybe can get cracks or what have you. So I don't know that for sure, but it's a good thought. Anyway, and there's a nice close-up for you, so you really can get the vivid detail and how rich the colors still are. And one of our groups, I think it was in 2019, our group was traveling and they were going to the Temple of Horus, and these young ladies were all on a field trip from school. So they wanted to practice their English with the group, and they were just so welcoming, and they all had a really nice little exchange there for a few minutes. And the guests all reported that they so enjoyed that, and it really meant a lot, that they wanted to introduce themselves. And on this afternoon, you may want to make sure that you are up top on the deck, because we'll be going through the Esna lock, which is, usually a fascinating thing. People like to check out those locks for sure, whether it's Europe or other places. And while we're cruising down the Nile, we'll see all these cool Nile Valley landscapes, these small village little hamlets and timeless scenes of highlight the afternoon, and then dinner will be served at about 7:30 as we continue traveling down the Nile. Of course, we're not in one of these, but nonetheless, isn't that just a gorgeous sight? There you see that fertile land and beautiful palm trees and mountains. Pretty spectacular. After breakfast the next day, we'll have a leisurely morning on board, which will be nice. Join the engaging Egyptologist ashore in Edfu to explore the Temple of Horus, considered by many scholars to be the best preserved cult temple in all of Egypt. It was built in the era between 237 and 57 BCE, which is later than many of the other sites along the Nile. It is a stunning example of traditional architecture. And my friend who sent me a couple of these from AAA said, I always wanted to take pictures showing the people so you could, visualize how immensely huge these temples are. I don't think anybody really gets a thought of that until you're there, of course. And then the inside here, it ranks as one of the second largest temples in Egypt after the Great Karnak, and it's very rich in design, intricate in detail, and ingenious in its massive construction. And this is kind of funny and cool. I was told by the same person who gave me a couple of these pictures that these guys would paddle like maniacs trying to keep up with the boat, or especially if it was stopped, they would be out there, trying to get everybody's attention. So don't worry, if you forgot to pick up something at one of those little shops, these guys will certainly take care of you. Next, we're going to look at the Temple of Kamambo. After our afternoon tea, we're going to step off the ship's private pier to explore this, built on a picturesque bend in the Nile where the crocodiles used to sun themselves. In contrast to the ancient wonders of Cairo and the Nile, the remarkable high dam at Aswan is an achievement that belongs to modern Egypt. With enriching insight and narration, you'll explore this engineering marvel, completed in 1970 at a cost of about $1 billion. It spans more than 2 miles across. This morning's excursion also includes the Temple of Philae, rescued from the rising waters of Lake Nasser after the completion of the high dam. Now situated on a lovely island, the earliest elements of this impressive complex include a small temple built around 370 BCE. Next day, we'll have a nice lunch on board, and then at about 4 o'clock, we'll have a very comfortable motorboat pick us up for a brief but scenic journey to visit the Nubian Museum. It was designed by an award-winning Egyptian architect, Mahmoud El Hakim. The building reflects traditional elements of Nubian architecture, and inside, its carefully curated exhibits include temple and tomb-dwelling artifacts from the ancient Nubian civilization that thrived here along the Nile as far back as 2000 BCE. After a final breakfast on board, you're going to disembark the Oberoi Philae and transfer to the airport for your included flight to Abu Simbel. With our expert Egyptologist again on hand, your comprehensive 90-minute tour of the Temple of Ramses II reveals one of the world's most impressive sites of antiquity. It took 20 years to complete this complex. It's located at the second cataract of the Nile. Behold these 67-foot-high figures of the king carved from solid rock, and hear the dramatic story of how they were moved. This is a unique I've never seen this shot before. I was so glad that she shared it with me. I've never seen it approaching from the water. So here's what it would look like. And so it gives us that sense of how the water could have continued to rise. So the moving of the temples of Abu Simbel was no simple feat. They were moved 200 feet above their original site to protect them from the rising waters of the dam. The moving of the temples at Abu Simbel, there were so many involved, and they all worked very hard to preserve every detail with careful attention to every little possible nuance. The work with relocating Abu Simbel temples was concluded on September 22nd, 1968, with a large inaugural ceremony. The relocation cost was $40 million, and it was an international collaboration aimed to protect and save the world's biggest historical monument. This engineering feat to relocate and protect this architectural wonder was so successful and precise that twice a year, on February 22nd and October 22nd, the rays of the rising sun pierced the temple entrance and reached deep into the heart, just 24 hours later than the original plan. Those were some very smart architects, that's for sure. In addition to its oft-photographed statues, the interior hall was decorated with all sorts of amazing relief carvings that also depict a great battle. And let's just take one more look at them there, because we're flying back to Cairo, where you're going to stay here at the Waldorf Astoria Heliopolis. We include that afternoon flight back to the capital, where you're going to be escorted here. It's conveniently located very close to the airport. It's ideal for your departure flight the next morning. You'll settle into your premier guest room for your final overnight in Egypt. So that's our first tour, and that's the one that has all those special AAA member benefits. All of our programs have them, but some have more than others, and those are identified as AAA vacations. So the second tour we have for Egypt is this one, Between the Paws. It does many of the same things that we just explored, of course. The difference here being more nights in Cairo, and we also spend time learning about Cleopatra in Alexandria. And one of the important things here is this right here. This was that group in April. Here they are standing between the paws of the Sphinx, because by special arrangement, we're permitted to stand there and enjoy an open air lecture by Dr. Ashraf Mohi Eldin, head of all of the Giza Plateau excavations. Wow, that would be pretty spectacular, wouldn't it? So that's our second trip for Egypt. Now we're ready to head to Iceland. I'm going to check my time real quick, make sure we're doing pretty good. Okay, well, I'll try to speed up just a little. And this one is not quite as long because there's not as many, spots to visit and so forth. So I'll kind of be more mindful and not talk so much about other things. I get too excited. Anyway, so here we go. Now here's Adventures Across Iceland. This is our winter program. We also have a summer program. The winter is the most popular. I don't know if it's because it's a little bit shorter, but it does give you probably the very best opportunities for seeing the Northern Lights, because that's when they occur in the later part of the year. So this one is never more than 16 or privately guided. AAA member benefit here is $115 per person savings. This has not become a AAA vacations yet. I think that it will, but that has to be approved by AAA committees. So down the road, maybe it will be one, but you have other savings that you'll learn about at the end of the presentation. So in January, it could be 36, and in July, it could be 60. High season is June, July, and August. Those are the busiest times, warmest weather, longest daylight hours, best availability for outdoor activities. Shoulder season, May and September, also good months if you want to avoid crowds, saves a little money. The temperatures are generally mild, although the weather can be a little bit more unpredictable than in summer. Low season, this is when the prices are at their lowest, and you can really enjoy the tranquility of the island with Iceland, with the Northern Lights tours, winter activities, or geothermal spa relaxation. And they say New Year's is also a great time to visit with all the fireworks and festivities. Many consider mid-February to April as the very best time, and that's when the lights are at their finest. And just an FYI, I don't even know why I put this in here, but they're 4 hours ahead of us. Okay, cuisine here. The meats can range from sheep, lamb, pork, beef, and even some other things that we won't talk about. While the fish is culturally significant for the local dwellers, the meat is also quickly becoming a good choice for locals and tourists alike. With new times come new technologies and knowledge, and Icelanders have learned how to utilize the natural surroundings, especially geothermal energy, which can actually heat buildings. They have a few greenhouses that are using this geothermal energy, which allows them to grow vegetables and fruit all year long. Travel abroad brought all kinds of different ideas for tradition, combined with their traditional ingredients, has created some very incredible flavors. In Reykjavik City, you'll find multicultural restaurants and all sorts of local food scenes in the style of the new Nordic cuisine movement. The emphasis is on purity, simplicity, and freshness. In other words, there's a whole lot more than there used to be there in Iceland. So don't think of it as just white fish and some unknown vegetable. There's all kinds of wonderful cuisine. So when we arrive here in Reykjavik, you'll be met and escorted to the stylish Apotek Hotel for breakfast, and then you'll join your engaging Icelandic trip leader for a guided walking tour. One thing you may not know is the flights from the USA arrive there. They're overnight flights. So it arrives, pretty early in the morning. That's why I'm speaking that we'll go right out and sightsee. The hotel is super well located. It's in a old, restored 1970 landmark building. There's only 45 rooms, and our guests are all upgraded to superior. It's right in the heart of the capital, close to the city's finest museums, shops, and restaurants. Now, we'll spend some afternoon time exploring in Reykjavik in the older sections on the harbor side, and also some of the old Viking homesteads. Next day, we're flying up to the north. And that's when we want to get on up there and see those northern lights, because we haven't so far. Then we're heading up here to Akureyri, which is set between the mountains and the sea on this picturesque north coast of Iceland. It boasts charming architecture and a thriving cultural scene of galleries, cafes, restaurants, and boutiques. On arrival, we're going to set out with our trip leader for a guided tour of the town and enjoy ourselves. The Hotel Kia enjoys a wonderful, enviable city center location at the base of a small hill that's also crowned with the Akureyri Church, an iconic landmark since 1940. It's also very close to the harbor front, has this wonderful outdoor lounge area, and also can be served there. And right off, there's your sample of the room, sorry. And then last thing is the Muleberg Bistro and Bar, which is adjacent to the hotel lobby. Very popular with local residents and visitors alike. It's a nice venue to have has a great wine list, craft cocktails, and an internationally inspired menu. Next day, we're going to walk on one of those famous black sand beaches. Icelandic is a very volcanic country, which is the reason for the black sand beaches. It's because the sand is ground down from the black volcanic rock. And this is Reynisfjara Beach. Before returning to Akureyri, we're going to visit Iceland's first microbrewery, where you're going to enjoy a tasting of their craft beers. Later this evening, and weather permitting, that's always going to be key with these northern lights, you'll set out with your guide to search for the northern lights. The excursion will take you pretty far outside of the city, where the near total darkness vastly improves your chances to witness one of the most amazing spectacles on the planet. You're going to enjoy a nice vision there, that is for sure. The best season to see the northern lights, as I said earlier, September to April. These are the months where there are full dark nights. Then we're going to head out and check out life in the far north. In the engaging company of your Icelandic guide, we're going to immerse you in the timeless traditions of daily life of the folks who live in this wildly beautiful part of the island. We're going to stop by several small countryside churches. It's a wonderful way to gain deeper insight into the country's strong Christian heritage, one that traces its roots to the 11th century when the Norse gods were outlawed and Christianity was adopted as the official religion of the island. And tonight we're going to do it again. We're going to go out for those lights and really have an incredible array of experiences, no doubt. But again, that is all weather related. Well, not weather so much, can be if it's foggy or something along that line, but they're monitoring that like crazy to make sure you get the very best experience possible. Next day after breakfast, we're going to see the Waterfall of the Gods, which is spectacular. This thundering cascade that plunges 40 feet across a chasm that stretches nearly 100 feet across, and hear the colorful tale of how it got its name. In the year 1000, after Christianity was declared the official religion of Iceland, the statues of Norse gods were hurled into the falls, earning the cascades its name as the Waterfall of the Gods. Then we're going to discover the unusual lava pillars of the Lake Maibaton area. It really is quite spectacular. There's another area here with all of these little fumaroles and so forth to see, and it really is, there's another underground river nearby too that you would have an experience to see. Then we're going to have a fabulous lunch out here. Traditional Icelandic specialties that are prepared from locally sourced products and accompanied by bread freshly baked inside the earth using only natural geothermal heat. Then we're going to travel to Thingvellir National Park, a unique geological site where the two tectonic plates meet, and the only place where you can see the mid-Atlantic rift above sea level. As you descend into the valley, the steep cliffs that you'll see are quite literally the edge of North America. Then we're going to thrill to one of Iceland's most famous geological wonders, the Stroker geyser, that regularly erupts 100 feet into the air. Then we'll see the Golden Waterfall, where you're going to behold a thunderous cascade of icy water that plunges into a very deep gorge. We'll also visit the skier facility. I don't know if you've seen that in stores, but we do have it in the States, to see how Iceland's unique yogurt is made and enjoy a tasting of this fresh, healthful local favorite. Then we're going to spend time on a family-owned farm and see these beautiful Icelandic horses, have a beautiful lunch out on the farm, and learn how greenhouse vegetables are able to thrive in the northerly climate. Then we're going to take you to one of Iceland's most famous natural wonders, the Blue Lagoon. The geothermal waters of the Blue Lagoon originate to more than 6,000 feet below ground and reach the Earth's surface at temperatures that usually range from 98 to 104. On the way to its surface, the waters absorb silica and other minerals that give the lagoon its distinctive and captivating blue color. We'll just enjoy a nice relaxing soak and a silica mud mask. And then, unfortunately, we'll have to say goodbye to Reykjavik and Iceland, and a wonderful destination. These are the savings that are available. And first one is very important for you to realize what we're saying here. We are telling you that as long as you book by July 31st, I'm sorry, this says May, it is July 31st, and book and travel all the way into 22, so this year or next year. And as long as you cancel before your final payment is due, all monies will be refunded. You just got to kind of operate like that now, just because things are, kind of precarious and changeable. So we have to be flexible enough to do that. Our pay in full discount is $1,000 off per couple or $500 off solo on any of our trips, and certainly both of these. We have a good special right now for the Galapagos as well. And then we have our family and friends savings, which is graduating $50 increments of savings based on 3 or more traveling together. But as Brian mentioned earlier, we also have some exclusive AAA Western and Central New York savings, which is a double member benefit. You probably might recall that I showed you on the map slides that it was $115 normal benefit, so that's doubled for $230 off per person, and that you can book all the way through July 19th. So it gives you about 30 days altogether to make a decision and get your reservation booked and so forth. So Brian, you want to wrap us up here?
Yes, thank you, Marilyn. What a great program. I got to tell you, Iceland is on my bucket list. I have not been there yet, so I'm really
Oh,
excited
good.
to do that. And you enticed me, so it's wonderful. But it really, you cover two fabulous destinations that Alexander and Roberts offers, among many others. And you really you take care of every detail and the intimate groups and all the upscale amenities, so fabulous. And, again, I want to reiterate to our listeners tonight, our participants, I should say, the peace of mind deposit, that's huge. And so, as we're emerging from the pandemic and traveling more, knowing that the flexibility is there, along with the discounts and offering for that pay in full deposit. The key is now, if people aren't comfortable traveling just yet, plan for later this year, next year, because space is going to fill up. And, when there's wonderful parts of the world to see, as we just saw, it's really important. So I would like to remind everybody of the $100 savings that is also combinable with the other member benefits and savings with AAA. If you do have any additional questions, please, our travel advisors know the product well, and they will help you plan that great journey with Alexander and Robert. So, Marilyn, thank you so much.
Thank
Again,
you.
I got another trip on my bucket list, so I'm ready to go, and I hope some of our participants as well. But I thank you again and wish everyone a great evening.
Thank you so much. Good night, everyone, and have a great weekend.